Okay, let me use the dispatch. I have a lot of documents. Mr. Speaker, I thank you. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for allowing us to provide leadership. Mr. Speaker, we are doing this at a time that the people of Kenya feel, and rightfully so, that leaders have used them and dumped them. They feel that, Mr. Speaker, that they held the ladder for us to climb to the top of the tree and appropriate fruits for everyone. But when we got to the top, we kicked the ladder and we are eating the fruits alone, enjoying the fruits of their labor and vomiting on their heads. Mr. Speaker, this is a time of crisis. And at a time of crisis, the leadership must be demonstrated. We are here, Mr. Speaker, as the upper house, as senators of the Republic of Kenya, to provide that leadership. Mr. Speaker, we are hearing a lot of things from young people, from our constituents, and we cannot pretend that the things that these people are saying don't make sense to us. These things are sensible. I want to address myself, Mr. Speaker, to 3 issues in that motion. First, Mr. Speaker, is on the Finance Bill 2024-2025, which was a monster that triggered the crisis that this country finds itself in. If the National Assembly, Mr. Speaker, had listened to the people, we would not be where we are today. Mr. Speaker, that's a point at which I want to respectively, as a leader, differ with the President on his comment during the interview. And 4 members of the National Assembly who voted in support of the finance bill would be our future heroes. Mr. Speaker, those 204 members of the National Assembly who voted yes for this bill are sellouts. They have failed this country. They have failed their constituents. They have reason to apologize to this country. And the Speaker, we are where we are, deep into a crisis that threatens to tear our country apart. The young people on the streets are the true patriots, people driven by a deep sense of love for their country. They don't want their country to go to the dogs. They love their country. They love their lives. They have a future to look into. The Speaker, I must applaud this upper house of the Parliament of the Republic of Kenya for at a time like this, because this is what is required of leadership. The leaders in the lower house, whose action has brought us where we are, have run away. We are here to clean up their mess. They should forever occupy their space and listen when the people of Kenya speak. They must listen when the upper house speaks. Mr. Speaker, my reading of Article 115 of the Constitution on presidential assent and referral tells me that, Mr. Speaker, we have a window to take possession of the finance bill referred by the President to Parliament and deal with it. Why do I say this, Mr. Speaker? I say this, Mr. Speaker, because the article deliberately says that the President shall refer the bill back to Parliament for reconsideration. Article 93 of the Constitution as both the National Assembly and the Senate. Mr. Speaker, lead with courage. Bring that bill to the floor of this House this afternoon or tomorrow, and let us deal with it. The Speaker, on the matter of the austerity measures as captured in the motion that we are debating today. First, I want to call out the SRC, led by Lynn Cherop Megich. You are completely out of order, completely out of order. How dare you publish salary increments for public and state officers at such a time as this? What exactly do you want to achieve? In fact, Mr. Speaker, because the majority leader, when he was moving this motion, he said that there are some institutions that must appear before us. The first institution should be the SRC. Who has sent them to fuel discontent in the country at a time that this country is bleeding? Who does that? Mr. Speaker, I want to echo the words of my leader, the minority leader in the Senate. We as senators, and we will pass it as a resolution at the end of this motion, we are not interested in that pay rise. We are not interested. In fact, one of the conversations that we have been having, and it will crystallize by the end of this motion, is where do we cut our own budgets as a Senate, as individual senators? For the SRC to do what they have done, I want to say this on the floor of this House: shame on that institution, and shame on Lynn Cherop Megich. The Speaker, the other officer that I want to call out, and I want to borrow the ears of the majority leader, because this is important. This is very important. I want to call out the head of public service, and for a reason. On May 24th, a day before this crisis started in this country, the head of public service wrote to the Public Service Commission to begin the process of recruiting CASs, the Cabinet Administrative Secretaries. Who does that at such a time as this? Who does that? Mr. Speaker, we want to call on the head of public service to receive that letter like yesterday. You cannot be advising or seeking advice from the PSC on how to recruit cabinet administrative secretaries at a time that we are saying we cannot afford the cost of running these offices. The Speaker, the next person of interest that should appear before this Senate and speak to the country is the head of the public service. The Speaker, I want to challenge the President, respectively again, the cost of living is what it is. Too much talk is not helping anyone. We have said everything that could be said. It is time for action. And there are things that I know the President can do and bring down the temperatures in this country. One of the things that he can do, even today, is to reduce the size of his cabinet. Mr. Speaker, the Constitution, Article 152, gives the President the minimum number of cabinet secretaries and the maximum number. He can appoint between 14 cabinet secretaries and 22 cabinet secretaries. As we speak now, we have 21 cabinet secretaries. The Speaker, I want to call on the President, as a demonstration that he has listened and understood what the people are saying. Reduce the size of your cabinet from 21 to 14, the minimum. Merge departments. Reduce the number of principal secretaries from 51 to around 30, or even 14, to match the number of cabinet secretaries that we have. The Speaker, and there is comparable jurisdiction to this argument. When you look at the United States of America, where we go to borrow money all the time, and we go for benchmarking all the time, Senator Alwale, the size of the cabinet in the US is 15, with a population of more than 340 million people. 14 cabinet secretaries in the US. When you look at China, with a population of more than 1.5 billion people, the members of the State Council, whose equivalent is a cabinet secretaries, are 26. What are we doing with 21 cabinet secretaries with a population of less than 60 million people and an economy that cannot support that kind of expenditure? The Speaker, let us reduce that number. The Speaker, on the matter of security, it is time for us all, and especially those who are in authority, to walk the talk. As I said, too much talk is not helping anyone. I'm hearing of the usual threats that those who break the law will face the full force of the law. That as we carry out these investigations, no stone will be left unturned. Mr. Speaker, those things stopped making sense a long time ago. It is time for action. This sitting of the Senate is a call to action, both from us and those others who are in positions of responsibility. Mr. President, if you love your country and you have listened to what the demonstrators are saying, let aid roll in the security apparatus and departments of this country. Speaker, I asked some young people from my office to tell me when, lastly, the Inspector General of Police, Japheth Koome, spoke to this nation. And they went to the archives and they have told me that the last time that the IG spoke to Kenyans was on 17th of April, 2024. And what was he saying? He was saying, and I quote, that as the Inspector General of Police, I would like to assure you, he is speaking to a contingent of police officers being dispatched to Haiti. He's saying, I want to assure you that they, the officers, have the capability, capacity, and training to succeed in this mission, and that they will deliver when they get to Haiti. That's the last thing that Kenyans heard from the IG. When the country is burning, the IG is silent. The Speaker, one of the requirements for demonstrations is that demonstrators would notify the police, they would be guided on where to go and how to organize their demonstrations, be escorted through streets or wherever they are going, presentation of petitions. The IG is absent. Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, the words that the President used on the former IG, Mr. Mutiambai, on the level of incompetence and being clueless, perhaps those words are better suited used on IG Kome. Perhaps actually the President spoke too early when he addressed Mutiambai. Talking about incompetence and lack of capacity, the Inspector General of Police is the embodiment of lack of capacity to lead the Kenya Police Service. Mr. Kome must leave office immediately for this country to enjoy peace and tranquility. The Speaker, lastly, let me speak very briefly on this matter of corruption. The Speaker, corruption has become the order of the day in this country. Unfortunately, the institution that has been charged with the responsibility of fighting corruption is itself the biggest den of corruption. The ESCC, the Speaker, is either unwilling or unable to fight corruption in this country. They will not help us in this journey. The Speaker, I've listened to the presentation by the majority leader on the performance of the judiciary. Though I have gone on record to applaud the CJ, the Chief Justice, for having the courage to lead from the front, a lot more needs to be done in the judiciary, and especially on matters of corruption. That justice now has become a commodity of sale in the judiciary is a very sad state of affairs in our country. We want this monster to be tackled properly, and the Speaker also challenged the demand side of corruption. Because there's also that demand side of corruption, Mr. Speaker. We must have a candid conversation as a country. When churches and schools and hospitals and all manner of institutions, when they look at their members of parliament, the people serving the public service, as the people who are supposed to give them money in Arambes to do all these manner of things every weekend, every day of the week, where is it that we expect these people to get this money from? Mr. Speaker, we must have a national dialogue, a national conversation on how to fight corruption. But lastly, Mr. Speaker, the Speaker, including what Senator Onyonka has said, but more seriously and more importantly, this thing about members of parliament, about public officers being expected to dish out money in Harambes every day,
Let's add 2 minutes for the senator to conclude.
Thank you, Speaker, for indulging me.